Hello, this is episode 6 of Bad Anime Sunday, and I'm here again with my friend Samvin. Say hi, Samvin.
Hi, guys.
And it is still Fighting Game February. So today...
It is still Fighting Game
Yes,
Feb?
it's still Fighting Game February, and we'll have it for one more week. And today we watched probably the best fighting game adaptation ever. The Art of Fighting. And that's okay. You know why? Because none of you even have probably played The Art of Fighting. But you might know the characters because they were imported, much like the Fatal Fury characters, into King of Fighters. Art of Fighting is, I believe, SNK's first fighting game series. I'm not sure. It is definitely one of their first, if not their first.
I don't know much about SNK fighters either, so
well,
I'm not sure
SNK fighters, what you need to know about them is they're very, very, very unfriendly to beginners. They're just so hard to play. You have to devote lots and lots of time to be good at them. And they're fun, but I could never get that good at them because they're just way too hard to play. But hey, watching this movie was... well, I was going to say easy, but almost as hard as playing the video games itself for a lot of people.
Oh, God. This was not a good movie.
It wasn't.
But I think maybe it's because I knew nothing about Art of Fighting going in, like, other than kind of who was imported into the King of Fighters games, which I kind of dabbled in, but I didn't really know what Art of Fighting was, and I was sure that there was going to be some kind of fighting tournament. So the fact that there wasn't was a surprise, but I'll tell you what actually did surprise me, and that was the fact that there actually was a plot to this. And it wasn't entirely dumb.
No, it wasn't. Thankfully, I think you watched it dubbed, right? I watched it dubbed. Okay, we watched it dubbed, so we watched it in the absolute best way possible. You know, old dubs are just the best with these movies. And oh my god,
I see that these guys I think have been to the same acting school as the William Shatner guys from
my god,
because they had so much emphasis placed upon
single
words
word
to fit the lip flaps.
I do give them praise. At least they did fit the lip flaps, but it was so funny. I mean, to be fair, I mean, these guys are bad actors, no doubt about it. But to be fair, I don't even think me or you or even a professional actor could make this script sound good and fit the lip flaps at the same time.
It was not a good script, but the thing is, I can't imagine how it would have been a good script even in the original Japanese.
I'm sure it was just as terrible in the original Japanese. But the thing about it is the dialogue would have been made for the lip flaps in the original Japanese, so it would have been just ever so slightly better, but probably not better enough to fix this movie. No. So we have a few characters from Art of Fighting in this movie. We have Ryo, who has a dark brown hair in this movie, and he looks absolutely nothing like he does in the King of Fighter games. I don't even think he looks like this in Art of Fighting games. He looks like a typical 90s, 80s anime main character, kind of, not before they went with the teenage main characters, even the...
You know who he reminds me of?
Who does he remind?
He reminds me of the guy from Bao.
Oh yeah, he does.
He kind of looks like that.
A lot of them all looked like that. They were, slightly muscular, not overly muscular, but at least somewhat manly compared to the teenage main characters we have in anime today. Then we have Robert, who probably looks the most like his video game counterpart.
And he's probably the best character in this because he actually has a character. Because
he actually somewhat has a personality. He's the Han Solo of this movie, obviously. And then...
It's not, that's not saying much when, the other characters aren't even stormtroopers in terms of personality.
Yes, that's true. Yes.
Ryo is clearly meant to be a Luke Skywalker, but my god, these people... Like, faceless stormtroopers really do have more personality than most of these guys.
Then we have Yuri, who is basically an insult to her character, because she is a plain damsel in distress. She looks nothing like her character. She just has a red headband and the brown hair, but other than that, she will never remind you of what Yuri's like in the games, where, she's kind of a energetic tomboy, and in this game, she just comes off as a super girly damsel in distress, and I'm sure that would just send most fans into a flaming rage, and
this like, oh my god, she was so boring.
She's a boring character. She's supposed to be the fun character, and that would have.
She's a non-entity.
And she's not. And that would have been, at least, if Yuri acted like how she was in the game and we had Robert's smart-ass personality, that would have been the most fun part of this movie, but the most fun part of this movie was Robert's smart-ass personality. And
the funny thing is, he's really kind of a dick. Well,
I'm going to get to that. Yes, he is a dick, but he is the best part of the movie, regardless. And
that's pretty bad.
And then we have King, who actually later in the video games goes out with Rio. Actually, now. That has no relevance to this movie, by the way, but I just thought I'd let you know that. And the best thing about King is her battle shouts. Actually, everyone's battle shouts are just so funny in this movie. Even when they're blocking moves, they're just like,
Dragon Ball Z's got nothing on these people.
Oh my god, and it's just so... It's so funny. So, those are our characters, and I will let Sam Vin tackle the plot.
Oh god, why do you always leave this
Well, because I talked way too much last video, so I gotta let you have a time to shine this video.
Okay, that's fair. The plot is... How to put it? So the story starts off with Rio and his dojo are in financial troubles, and Robert, and he's basically helping to find this old lady's cat for money. Robert helps him out, but they end up being embroiled in a gang struggle because this gang of people wants a diamond called the Eye of Sirius. And later on, basically, it turns out that the Eye of Sirius went missing, and the home that they broke into in order to find the cat, it's really contrived. Just roll with it for now. And so what happens is Ryo's sister is kidnapped because the gang thinks that these two have the diamond. They obviously don't. Mishaps happen, and they have to find a way to save Ryo's sister. And that's pretty much the plot. But I do give it credit. At least there is a plot there. Like, there's a beginning. There's a unfortunate mishap that gets our heroes into the whole storyline. We have a confrontation in the middle. We have resolution towards the end, even if it's a total deus ex machina where they eventually find the diamond. And then we have a conclusion that wraps everything up. And I would actually go as far as to say that as a story, this is probably the tightest story we've seen on Bad Anime Sunday. That doesn't mean it's good.
It is definitely a story that I'm like, oh,
it's a story.
Simple, but hey, it's a fighting game adaptation. You want as simple a story as possible in a fighting game adaptation because all you care.
Honestly, after Blaze Blue, I'll take what I can get.
This is nothing. This is like the total opposite of Blaze Blue's story. And
right, whereas Blaze Blue was all over the place and just could not be understood. And had no purpose beyond the cool fights. This was much more simple, much more streamlined. It always did feel like things were happening in this movie, whereas Blaze Blue was so boring. I honestly just tuned in and out because so much wasn't going on throughout that stupid show. Here, things were happening. They were silly and they were punctuated by horrible voice actors and probably one of the worst scripts I've ever seen in my life. But at least it was happening.
That's true. It did actually have stuff happening.
You could never accuse this show of being, I won't say boring.
You can't say it's poorly paced.
That's a good way to put it. things do happen in this show, and I can't fault it for that, really. But what I can fault it for are the boring-ass characters.
Oh my god. They're so bad.
We said Robert's the only character, and we mean it. But Robert is kind of a douchebag. He's hitting on Yui, even though she's she's 4 years younger than him. She's like 16, 17. He's like 20. I wasn't sure about that.
They acted like they were going out. Well, they go out in the games later, but I'm guessing he just acts like they're going out, and they're not actually going out. I mean, it doesn't seem like Yuri really was. He just wants in her pants like he wants in every girl's pants.
Which is a bit creepy, given that she's clearly underage, but, Japan, so... although he is a douche, that he is also constantly asking for King's number and trying to get her in the sack as well, so...
yeah, that's... And let's not forget, the very first scene... They get in that apartment to catch the cat, and he just blatantly is like, well, let's just go in here, and let's just take their beer and drink it.
Robert is a monumental douchebag. Yeah, he's constantly hitting on other women, and he thinks nothing of stealing someone's beer, and you just think, what an asshole. I know he's the most entertaining part of the movie, but in real life, you would want to punch this guy.
He is such an asshole. I mean, in the first couple of minutes, all he does is make fun of the main character constantly, and you're like, wonder why are they best friends? And it's because because Robert has the innate ability to defy gravity. Where Rio is falling off an apartment building, and Rio jumps up and kicks his falling foot so that he can land on the ground safely.
I'll say one thing for this show. The fight scenes weren't that boring.
They were actually pretty funny a lot of the time.
The bit I love is where Robert and Rio are hiding from the gang by balancing on a fan. Now, I'm not much of a physicist, but I do know that fans are not the sturdiest of things. And yet we have two big muscular men balancing on a fan for a good 4.5 minutes before it finally gives way. So either they're really light, or that fan is made of adamantium.
Yes. And, well, the fan does eventually break, to be fair. But I liked in that scene how the guy that went in and came into Rio's apartment was like, it's like, give us the diamond or we'll kill you, after shooting down the gun.
In that exact voice.
After shooting down the door with all his goons beforehand, which would probably have killed them anyway. And before we go on, the best part, one of the best lines in that movie is Rio opens the refrigerator door to give milk to the cat. And he's like, oh, the electricity's still on.
No. I think the best moment in this film comes a bit later on when they're trying to fake that they have the diamond to save Rio's sister. I keep forgetting her name because she just does nothing in the story. But there's a moment where they bring the diamond. They pretend that they have the diamond, but they really don't. And then Robert pulls out a hand grenade and says, give Yuri back or we'll blow this place up. And it's like, haha, it's not going to work because there's a big glass screen in front. And you think, okay, these criminals aren't entirely stupid. But then Mr. Big, who's the criminal overlord, says basically, bring us the diamond or the girl gets it. Like, for real, as a parting threat. And then King chucks the hand grenade at them. And you...
I didn't even think of that.
So...
It's like, they're going to be able to bring that diamond to you after...
Right after they get out of the hospital.
And they wanted it the next morning, by the way. And it's like, how does he even know where you live? I didn't get that.
A better question is why they thought that was a good idea. These two are the only ones that could possibly get our diamond back. So what do? Let's blow them up. And then let's tell them that they have to get the diamond back anyway.
And then a rope comes down, and they to run away from the detective that's always chasing them throughout the movie, who is also an...
I like the detective. He was like the J. Jonah Jameson of anime. And
so what do they... I thought it was just... I love how they defy physics. I know fighting physics and fighting, what do you expect? But they don't defy physics through fighting. They defy physics just through doing things. And it's...
Yeah, the fighting is actually relatively normal, but everything else is superhuman.
Like, they get on this rope and Spider-Man their way down it, and then they're like going down this rope at top speed with their arms, and then they just land softly on the rope when they get to the bottom, like with no impact at all.
The power of anime.
Oh, that detective had one of the best lines too. He had to let the Rio and Robert go because they obviously weren't in the wrong, and he retorts by saying, who makes these goddamn laws?
And this is a police detective, and you just think, wow. I know cops in America are controversial at times, but, well, that just said it all, doesn't it?
Yes, and, you know, he just wants to... He just wants to get the diamond, and he wants to jail the guy who took the diamond. They never really explained that very well, did they?
He's just a greedy prick.
But the funny thing I thought was how many freaking cops they had chasing these guys. They had one scene where just like a million cop cars were zooming by. And I'm like, dang, these are the most incompetent police ever. And that is shown at the end of the movie when all the police officers jump in the pool and some of them can't swim at all.
In order to find the diamond.
Because the diamond falls into the pool and they're just like, you see one guy who's literally just upside down, twirling his legs in the air. I'm like, well, this is why they had to have two bums find their fucking diamond for them.
But you know what? I honestly didn't mind, because even that was kind of foreshadowed. Like, the police want the diamond, so of course they're all gonna all jump in and scrabble around trying to find it. Even Robert flirting with King earlier on, that was kind of set up, and then later on, like, there's not a payoff as such, but it's revisited. So the writers were bad writers, but they clearly understood how you put a script together. Yep. This honestly was not a terrible anime, I think, in terms of plot. It's definitely the best.
It really just needed, better script. That's really what it knew. It's like if it was, it was like their first script ever.
This was what Tekken should have been. I think. I mean, just like a very small focus story around 2 or 3 characters with a couple of side characters, just kind of focusing on the central drama of the protagonist with a few crazy fights. That's the other thing as well. They were actually fighting this.
They didn't last 3 seconds either. I'm like, the very first fight against
kind of a rarity.
The very first fight against that T-Hawk 2 or whatever, that lasted longer than every fight in Tekken. I'm like, wow.
Yeah. It was, and the funny thing is that martial arts weren't even a huge part of the story. It was, honestly, this could have been this could have been a final fight story for how little it had to do with, because it was just about fighting a street gang and
saving the girl.
That's all it is. It's just really simple from start to finish. Well, just like girl taken, heroes get girl, end of story.
And you know what? That's what we wanted in the other fighting game animes. That was what our problem was, that they had too many characters. They had too much, They had too much going on.
There was too many characters and not enough fighting.
Here, there is no subplot. There's just the main plot. There's only 4 characters from the fighting game, which is a good idea. And one of them isn't focused on at all, Yuri. So she's just kind of there to be the damsel in distress, which, they probably should, not do that. But, and the way to improve... The way to improve the characters, before I let you go off again, in my opinion, Robert, keep him a jackass. That's fine. He needs better dialogue, is what he needs, but keep him a jackass because that jackass characters could be very entertaining. And Ryo,
he was very entertaining.
He really just needed better dialogue. That's really all he needed, because his dialogue just sucked. And for Ryo, this guy's a martial artist who has to go around chasing cats. Okay. You need to make this character just the biggest dork ever, is what you need to do. Like, he's secretly a badass, martial artist, but he needs to be a complete dork. That's the main thing. But his whole personality was just, he just states the obvious. He's kind of the straight man, and that would be fine, but it's just...
It wasn't even, and that,
he only got the...
When I said he was like the Baal character, I meant it because he really didn't do anything. As you said, he's really just there to state the bleeding obvious.
And the only other thing I would change in the fights, it's not completely necessary, but it wouldn't kill you to put some moves that were actually in the game. They did. It's these are martial artists that could shoot fireballs out of their hands. Where were those fireballs at? But I guess it's not completely necessary. Yeah. I mean, at least they were willing to be flexible. So I guess that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, at least, I guess I would prefer martial arts to, Dragon Ball Z energy spams. So that's something. And just to go back to the whole BlazBlue thing, I mean, I didn't think BlazBlue had all that much fighting that wasn't kind of a superpowered brawl, but hey, you actually got fighting, you got martial arts, and okay, the moves weren't faithful to the games, but hey, it's fighting in a fighting anime. What do you want?
I don't think the moves should be spammed by saying. I was just thinking maybe they should save that one super move he has to the very end. I think the Street Fighter movie did that, actually. He didn't do a Hadouken until the very end of the movie, and that made the Hadouken all the more special. And that would have been say,
right.
I think, obviously, if you can't tell, Ryo and Robert, what are they? They are rip-offs of Ryu and Ken. I mean,
as if the Ryo wasn't a giveaway.
This is why Street Fighter, Capcom eventually made a parody character called Dan, and Dan uses a style that is basically like Ryo's style, except pronounced with a G, and he's got Robert's haircut, and he's a dork like Yuri, so it's they're just making fun of SNK for that.
Yeah.
So, is there anything else you want to say about this movie?
No. There is. And that is, well, first of all, I think, let's talk about the soundtrack and the animation of it. The soundtrack is non-existent, and I think
that's a good thing.
That's what disappointed me.
It is.
And don't get me wrong, I don't want what Tekken did.
That's what
where we have the worst in 80s rock. But you could have given this a show something like even just a few character themes to pinpoint the fights and things, but I just didn't notice the music at all. And I'm not saying it wasn't there, but if it was, then I just didn't pick up on it.
Ryo's theme is good in the King of Fighter games. It's a cool theme,
SNK has some good music, but I tell you, the other thing I did think, the animation was simple in that kind of 80s, early 90s kind of way. But again, kind of like Baal, I thought this is actually better animation than what most anime have. I mean, it's not the same caliber as Baal. Baal looked really, really good, actually. But this wasn't too bad. they move like people. The animals moved like actual animals. And I actually kind of liked the overall color scheme. I mean, it was bright. It was bright. Everything was colored well. It wasn't too dark. It wasn't too detailed. Because that's the thing that Blaze Blue lost me with. Like, all of a sudden we're in Orient Town or we're in the Cauldron or whatever, and the environments in Blaze Blue look beautiful. But the problem is there's sometimes too much going on. I thought. So you're not quite sure what you should be focusing in on or not. Display. Yeah. This didn't have that problem. It was much easier on the eyes. And it's clearly low budget stuff, but for what it was, I honestly thought it wasn't that bad.
I will say that.
So this was more of an average anime Sunday than a bad anime Sunday.
Yeah, I would say that. I mean, a lot of people say it's one of the worst, and I want to say to those people, I'm like, you haven't seen the worst yet, then.
You haven't seen Tekken.
Tekken was a boring piece of crap compared to this. I will say, at least I was, it was 44 minutes I was relatively entertained for those 44 minutes. And, with better dialogue, I would have been pretty entertained overall.
It's more fun than people think. I reckon.
I think people just.
It's a kind of thing you should probably.
I think it's the problem is what we said before with the other fighting game February is it's hard to that it's when the characters don't really look like their source material. It's hard for the fans to really appreciate it.
Yeah, true, but for what it is, like if it's actually fairly enjoyable if you're just kind of prepared to turn your higher mental functioning off. So just grab some buddies, get a few beers together, and just have fun making jokes at the expense of the horrible acting, and just enjoy a average but kind of silly little throwaway martial arts anime, because it's not that bad.
It really isn't. It does remind me of those old 90s movies that had shitty dialogue, but they were kind of fun, where they just do something really simple, but it's lighthearted, it's
silly,
simple,
but it's enjoyable.
Turn your brain off and have some fun. That's with it, and that's really all there is to it. As much in the same way you would enjoy a JoJo anime. Because it is.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you have the choice between this and JoJo, you pick JoJo, but for what I didn't think it was that bad, honestly. I'd say in terms of the quality of the show, this is probably the best one we've seen. Mostly because this could have been the next Tekken if it was put together worsely. But the fact that the story hung together and was actually told in a clear and concise way, I think, is what saved it. Because, as I said, the script is really, really kind of bad. And the story does admittedly require a few leaps of logic to get anywhere. But on the whole, I didn't hate it. I mean, there was no invisible dinosaurs, so I didn't have anything to really complain about.
Well, that's it. So basically, we take the same plot and give it some more clever, witty dialogue and change Ryo's character and King's character a little bit, and we'd probably have a more solid movie, and that's about the changes we would make to it, because you would be like, well, would you change the plot at all? Not really, because it is. It's okay to have a simple plot.
It's not the most feminist thing in the world, but
it's okay to have a simple.
But for what it is,
at least what we watched Diabolic Lovers. This is God compared to that in terms of feminism.
It's sad that a story that's just about saving a woman with no personality and no character is better than Diabolic Lovers.
And
just
at
let
the very
that sink
least,
in.
Even though Yuri was a damsel in distress, King was not. She was a strong woman. So it's so we'll it wasn't really about the gender. It was just maybe Yuri as a person for this particular movie was just a weak. Well, not a weak, just a normal girl,
That's a good observation. King was actually kind of a badass. King was competent.
She freaking takes that grenade stick and pins it right back in. She's like, well...
And then she throws it right back at the heroes after telling them to get the diamond. Because King is smart.
So out of all of the women we've seen fighting, because they always have a random. King's actually so far pretty up there on the fighting game list.
I think she might be the most competent woman we've seen since the start of this podcast.
Yeah, probably. That's pretty sad, but probably.
It's pretty sad for what it is, but hey.
And there was no sexism in the fight. When Robert and King fought, it was like a normal brawl.
Yeah, actually, that he clearly respects her as a fighter, so there's no kind of faux chivalry. So
he does. And he's the kind of character
see.
You expect. Oh, well, I don't hit women, and it's like, nope, it's a fight. So let's fight.
Yeah, he knows that she can kick his ass, so he knows not to underestimate her. So that
is cool. And so you see what the things just a stronger dialogue and the things you can observe in movies that make them cool. That's always cool to find out. So it seems like we're done with this episode, would you say?
I reckon so. So the question is, what do we end Fighting Game February with?
Well, it seems like we could watch the Samurai Showdown anime. We could technically watch the Fatal Fury anime, but that's not that bad. I know people aren't.
Well, if you don't have a suggestion, we now have a Facebook page, Bad Anime Sunday. So it's just www.facebook.com/Bad Anime Sunday. We actually did have a suggestion for how to finish this off. And that was by George, who suggested that we take a look at Tekken Blood Vengeance.
Isn't that the live-action movie?
No, it's a CG anime.
Oh, God. All right. I guess we can end it with Tekken as well.
It begins and ends with Tekken.
Beautiful. Oh God. Maybe this movie will be better than the Tekken anime movie.
I really doubt
it. But we will see. I guess we can end it with that movie. And I got bad news for you. You know what anime got announced? And it's something we've watched before.
Oh no, not Diabolic Lovers again.
Diabolic Lovers 2!
No!
I bet you want to see that all day. Oh God, I can't believe. What is wrong with you people? You people in your 50 Shades of Grey. That's what Diabolic Lovers is. It's 50 Shades of Grey, the anime.
God, it is.
And what do you people see in 50 Shades of Grey? Seriously, what?
Maybe you don't want to know.
The same. Okay, you if you like 50 Shades of Grey, you might like Diabolic Lovers, so check it out.
And you also might like being put in a mental institution because you're weird.
All right. Okay, we are done. We will see you guys next time for another hopefully torturous anime experience this time.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see you guys.
Take care, guys. Bye-bye.